see if it was a mom, see if it was a mom or a contact.
I knew there was no way we were doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, but I was actually surprised. I mean, it came, usually you get that stuff from like crazy email.
Right.
That was actually gmail.com. So it was like a normal address. You could
Right.
set up a dummy
Oh yeah.
For in between.
Well, I replied.
Sound good? Yeah. You can tell what you're doing.
That way, I don't know. Mike and Taff haven't yet, but
and Donnie.
Okay, I got 6:30. I'm going to say a quick prayer. Father God, we just thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for the beautiful weather you're giving us, and just ask that your will would be over this meeting. In your son's name we pray. Amen. Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Call to order. Roll call, please.
Balmer? Here. Barry?
Here.
Bounds?
Here.
Munson?
Here.
Smock?
here.
Wagner? Here. Yates?
Here.
Are there any additions or deletions at this time? Okay. Public comment. So we have some speakers, 5 minutes max per, 20 minutes total. And Jason Crawford.
I didn't sign it. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I signed attendance. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Clear with that sheet.
Surely got something to say, don't you?
I'm the
That's
silent
the
guy.
wrong page. I think he does have the wrong one, because I was the only one on it.
I didn't even learn how to read it.
You did. There might have been
Is
somebody
that
else.
Don and Lori?
You have the wrong attendance.
I think you just got the attendance.
I signed not first, so I
Oh, this
have
is
to go
the
first.
attendance, sorry.
Yeah, they hadn't given him the
Here
right
we are.
one yet.
Okay, so
I
my
took
name.
the wrong one. It wasn't your fault, it was mine.
So my name's Lori Nelson, and most people know me because I run Boondocks, and I've been very active trying to get petitions, to try to get attention, and I brought to light that, some decisions was made prior on a Facebook post with, citing 700 people. And, that thing was no way legit, should have been used to make a decision. And there was a few other things I was concerned about, but more than anything, I want to kind of lighten this up a little bit. So after I left here, I was furious, to say the least, and I did some posts on Facebook, and I got a lot of activity, and I didn't realize how many people on that end of the county and this end is very aggravated with this. And so I wanted to shut it down as quick as I could, because it's the kids' graduation, it's their prom, and it's just not fair to them. That negativity is not fair to our students. So I'm like, enough of that. But moving forward, I am begging you to look at some things differently, because the public and our people do want that school in Joy. And it's not, I don't even buy the busing. Busing, people are not afraid to put their kids on a bus. It's not legit. That's a phobia. That's not a fear. And as far as feeding these kids, that's almost laughable to me, because you have to feed the kids. And they have recourses if you don't. What I'm mostly concerned about is their overall education and the lack of the general public's knowledge in that, because they don't know. They don't understand it. When you talk to them, they are clueless about any of it. They're not educators. So what I'm really wanting to ask you is if you could, and I haven't talked to anybody about this, I wish you could have a couple of the principals up here that this would affect, that's sitting behind me, briefly explain how that school in Joy would benefit the kids' education, leaving all the other silly problems behind that would have to be addressed. How does it meet the needs of the special needs kids, the ones that fall below that average? How does it meet the needs of the overachieving kids that are going to excel and need that extra? They start that at a young age. That doesn't start in high school. That starts when they're younger. You know, so they need every opportunity they can to fly. Our kids are doing wonderful in sports. They're shining. And I don't want anything to stop them, but I would love to hear from them principals if you would invite them to explain the educational benefits of that being in Joy. All money aside, how does it benefit the kids? Can we do that?
We've had many conversations on it in building and grounds. We've talked about it here, so we have done that, and they have addressed it.
I would like it to be an open meeting where the general public that is watching this can hear the reasons, because when they ask me, I don't feel like I'm qualified to talk on that. I feel like I have no qualifications to talk on the educational level at that high level. I would like them to hear from our educated staff that you have hired, how does that meet the needs of the kids? I mean, Mr. Bush, it affects him more than anybody. Can't we listen to him? Can we hear his words? Can the public that are going to watch them hear that? Because I would love them to hear that. They need to hear that. I mean, these are their children that it's affecting them. They're furious. I mean, I can't even answer to it anymore. It's so bad. So, if you would so kindly invite them, if you don't want to, I totally understand the squash, but it would be beneficial to our people in this county to know exactly what's going on and how it would benefit our kids. But yeah, shine on, Mercer County. The Eagles are awesome. But hey, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Tammy?
I don't think this is the first time this kid's been here.
She about made it last time.
Oh, so sweet.
How old is she?
2 days from the last meeting.
Oh, man.
She doesn't like board meeting dates. She's one board meeting in 2 days.
She's here for the crying mode. All right, I'm here tonight on behalf of the 500+ registered Mercer County residents who've signed a petition regarding your recent decision to rebuild New Boston Elementary in its current location. At the time, you heard from the superintendent, admins in every building, and multiple staff members who all expressed that the best decision for the future of MBE would be to relocate to Joy. The petition is in support of relocating New Boston Elementary to the Joy campus. In prior decisions, the board has stated on numerous occasions that they were listening to the voters. Some of you chose not to go with the results of the survey because of the signed Facebook petition and emails against a consolidated elementary school. We are asking now for the same respect of our opinions as to what should happen with the future of New Boston Elementary. You can look through the signatures and note that there are people from all over this district in support of this decision and several petitions that are still circulating. The code of conduct taken by all 7 board members reads as follows: I will represent all school district constituents honestly and equally and refuse to surrender my responsibilities to special interest or partisan political groups. We are asking that you listen to all the constituents with equity, no matter their address on one end of the district or the other. The constituents of Mercer County School District have voiced their opinion, just like they did about the consolidation of the elementary schools. Our voice is overwhelmingly supportive of building an elementary school in Joy instead of New Boston. We are asking that one of the 4 school board members, Mr. Berry, Mr. Bounds, Mr. Smock, or Mr. Ballmer, with the support of the 3 board members that were in support of building in Joy, Mr. Yates, Mrs. Wagner, and Mr. Munson, ask for the action item to be placed on the June agenda to be voted on to once again move New Boston Elementary to Joy. Should you continue to refuse to listen to the 500+ constituents voicing their concerns, we ask that you refrain from making any further actions regarding New Boston Elementary until after the November election. At that point, you can make a determination moving forward based on the referendum placed on the ballot. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak at this time? board comments? Anybody like to make any board? I do want to say, and I think I put it on Facebook, but I wanted to get up at the graduation and say something about Mrs. Day and everything she's done for the high school and in this district. And I know she's got a real time constraint. She keeps on running through graduation, so, but you're gonna greatly be missed. I know we've said that before, but thanks for all you did, and the graduation was great.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a correspondence, there's one going around, I don't know if everybody's seen it.
It's back here.
Yeah, we got it. Consent agenda. Does anybody want any of those listed separately for discussion and separate vote? Okay. Accept a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ballmer,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Bounds,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Wagner. Yes. Gates.
Yes.
Okay. Accepted. Item number 7.1, Finance Committee. It was sent out today, I think, this morning.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. It's in your amended board packet. Did anybody have any questions on that? Okay, if no further questions, move to action items. Action item 8.1, registration fees for FY '23. Say anything about it, or anybody have any questions on it?
Vote. Did we have a roll call
Yeah.
on the consent?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah, she
I'm
did.
sorry.
I'm totally missing it here. On the registration fees, there's no recommended changes in the registration fees for this coming year. But I would like the board to consider what we might do with registration fees in the future. Registration fees in many ways continue to be a burden for our families, and a burden for our staff in terms of trying to collect those in many cases. They don't represent a significant amount of income for the district, and we've seen a number of neighboring districts that have begun to drop those fees in their entirety. So I'd like the board to think about that as we move forward, and we might revisit that in the future, and I can provide you some additional financial details in regard to that.
I've been asking for that since I got on the board.
Because I know the elementary teachers, maybe junior high, I'm not sure if you guys do it, but I know when we're younger kids, we send them a whole box of stuff. Is there a way that we can divert them somehow so the teachers can buy what they actually want with that money? I don't care if we cut the fees or, whatever, but they come with this whole list of things we gotta buy, right? And about, I don't know, half the parents get it right? I don't know.
Yeah, we get all kinds of donations for school supplies. We
Yeah,
get all
so-
kinds of donations.
I mean, I didn't know if we could.
Which these aren't really school supplies, I don't think.
No, these are, these are the parking fee,
Right.
all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if we could, lower them significantly and somehow divert them to that would be cool, and we don't have to.
I'd be all for getting those.
I just figured just the registration itself for any of the others.
So we end up lottery tickets.
That's something I think that we need to discuss, because I don't, on the individual fees that we charge for classes, I don't have a good way to track what that is and how that supports the class. The registration fee, like, okay, if you're a high school student, it's $90. That piece we have very good records of. but what's collected by classroom teachers and goes into activity accounts at the building level, I'd have to do a little more research on to figure that out.
Are we gonna still pay to play on sports and parking fees and?
Well, and I think all those things factor in about, you know, where do you draw the line on that? And if we're gonna talk about that, do we talk about all of them?
Like which ones are necessary and which ones are privileges.
I kind of remember because I've asked about this in the past, and I want to say it was under $30,000 that we bring in for the registration fees and all that stuff. Is that about right, or do you?
Well, I think it's higher than that when we factor in all the other things, like just the flat elementary, junior high, or high school registration fee. That's probably about right, but it
Because
is.
free and reduced lunch don't pay the registration fee, correct?
Free does not.
Right.
We've got 400 kids at the high school, and it's $90. That's, you know, it's 36 grand just for that registration group.
Okay.
If
If they all pay it.
yeah, assuming that everybody paid it, because that's vulnerable.
It's $100,000 or something.
Yeah, and so as a district, we average about 40% free and reduced.
Okay, so it'd only be probably 60 or 70,000.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think the last time we talked about that, it was $70,000.
Our budget's what, 13 million?
And I don't think you see it on that detail. Right there.
1.5 teachers, guys. 1.5 teachers. That's all you heard.
Okay, looking at that.
1.5 full teachers.
Well, this is one experienced teacher.
One experience, 1.5 new.
Okay, but, so you're wanting to go with this year and then something cause we'd have to talk about it
Yep.
in advance.
You don't want to defer it necessarily. Another one, or you're just looking for changing it for next.
Well, I think at this point, it would be difficult to change going into next year, to zero that. But I don't know, like I said, there are some technical issues with that too in our online registration system, but we might be able to revisit that, but I'm certainly not recommending any increase in those fees. But I'd like you to think about that as we move forward, and maybe that's an action that we table and reconsider next month. Because like I said, I didn't have an opportunity to talk with the board about that ahead of time, but I think that's something that we might want to look into.
When do you have to have that decision?
We would have to have that in June, because we open registration on July 1.
Is that enough time if we were to decide to do something?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to, I would move to postpone this to the next June meeting.
I'll second that. Does it need a second?
Roll call, please. Table the vote on the
Yeah.
registration fee.
I'm sorry, just a second. Okay, Barry,
Yes.
Bounds,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes.
Alright. Table, so moving to 8.2, meal fees for FY '23.
Meal fees will remain the same. Because of our participation in the National School Lunch Program, we don't have total control over what those charges are, but we are allowed to apply for the waiver that Angie included in your packet, to keep our fees the same as they were for this year. Although that's a little bit odd, because the federal government had some special rules in place where this year they continued to eat for free. And that may or may not be extended for next year. There's a lot of requests from school districts across the nation to extend that for at least one more year, to allow all meals to be free. But at the moment, that plan will expire at the end of June. And so students not on the free or reduced list will go back to paying regular price for those meals. But like I said, there is a a lot of concern from school districts nationwide, particularly with the inflationary costs we've seen on food supplies and grocery stores and that impact on families.
Okay. Let's have a motion to approve the meal fees.
Move to approve the meal fees as presented, no change.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Bounds,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Okay, moving to 8.3, bread, milk, and fuel bids, FY '23.
Bread, we received no bids.
Did they go out of business or something? Were we using?
Aunt Billy's, yeah.
They go out of business or something, or just don't want to deliver?
They are not we received a no bid letter from them early on. In fact, they had announced to all their clients that they were discontinuing business mid-year, but would continue to honor their contracts from last year. So I don't know what their future is. We received one milk bid from Prairie Farms, and we received 2 fuel bids from both Holcomb's and Blick and Blick. You have those in your packet. And in that case, I'm recommending to go with Holcomb Fuel for the 22-23 school year.
And what do we do with bread?
Yeah.
What do we?
Yeah, the bread, we have been in contact with Kohl's, our food supplier for our food service program. They are able to provide frozen bread to us. And
Do we have to cook it or just thaw it?
just thaw it. And we're exploring other options, but this is not just us. I mean, it's every local school district is dealing with that issue because Aunt Millie's been the supplier to almost all of them.
Who's the other one in Quad Cities that, there's another bakery up there. Because we used to use it for the JCs, but it was just.
Wonder Bread on River Drive has been, Davenport's been gone for a long time.
Yeah, it wasn't the.
Sarah Lee was up there.
Sarah Lee, that's what.
I think they're up
They don't do it, or they don't do schools.
They're up
don't
there, I
know.
think.
We sent it out to 3 people. I'm trying to think what the third bid was, who it was to. Big O Bakeries. Who was it up? I'd have to look, but we only received 1 letter back and they weren't even bidding, so.
And we do need separate motions for
For Bill.
the milk and fuel.
Any reason why Blick's so much higher than Wonderland? And do we even use 87 octane? Is that what the vans and all that use? Well, not the big vans, but.
They've always supplied that county as well. Holcomb. I think that's the market they're after. That's just my 2 cents. Because I questioned that.
Blick got it last year, but.
What's that?
I said Blick got it last
Did
year,
they?
but that was the first time they.
For us.
For us, that was the first time they got it, ever since I ever knew.
Yeah, maybe they figured out the bid process.
I just, depends.
But then I don't know what changed now.
I mean, because they're higher on 2 and lower on 2.
Move to approve the milk bid from Prairie Farms as presented.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Munson,
Yes.
Smock,
Yeah.
Wagner,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Bounds.
Yes. Motion for the fuel bid.
I'll make a motion to approve the fuel bid with Holcomb's.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Smock,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Bounds,
Yes.
Munson.
Yes.
Okay, moving to item 4, IESA membership renewal.
Recommending we renew our membership in the IESA in the amount of $300. This allows us to participate in the state series that a number of our programs have available to them. I believe our junior high track team may have left today or early tomorrow morning. I saw Sam.
Friday
Softball most of them play.
I get a motion to.
I would approve the ISEA renewal membership.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Wagner,
Yes.
Yates,
Yes.
Ballmer,
Yes.
Berry,
Yes.
Bounds,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Smock.
Yes.
Item 8.5, approved audit firm for FY 23 audit.
Did it last year. right?
Yep. This is Gorans and Associates.
Move to approve Gorin and Associates as, for the audit firm for FY 23.
Second.
That's close.
I'm sorry.
Do you have some?
Be
I would, yes, that should be FY 22.
Yeah, cause they're on.
Yeah, sorry. I'll amend my motion to FY 22.
Well, it was on the agenda that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second.
I think they just got excited about FY 23 for the milk and bread.
Are we approving them to do the audit for 23 then?
22.
No,
22.
We already did that. Are we approving them to go ahead?
No,
and
the
do
the FY 22 audit is the one that will be completed after June 30th
Oh,
of
okay,
this
so
year.
we're approving for the next
Yeah.
audit, not
Yes,
for,
for the next audit.
not approving the audit they've already
The
done.
next audit of
Later
last
this
year.
Right.
How often do we switch them? I know there was some discussion over the years that we should switch once in a while. Do you
Yeah,
believe in that?
and we switched, this would be, FY 22, I believe, would be the 5th year, 4th, I'd have to go back and look, if it's the 4th or the 5th year that we've been with Gorans, but that's typically every 5 to 10 years.
I was gonna say, cause we've switched before when we did, then it seems like you get new input from the new guy telling about how the old guy didn't do it right. I mean, it's
Fresh
really.
fresh eyes are always good,
Well,
that's why
yeah.
they recommend changing.
Everybody
it
gets
every
comfortable,
few
it seems
years.
like, and then all of a sudden, things start slipping a little. But
So we had a motion and a second, is that
Smock and Berry,
correct?
Yeah.
Okay, roll call please.
Yates,
yes.
Ballmer,
Yes.
Berry,
Yes.
Bounds,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Move to information discussion items, FOIA requests, we didn't see any here, I think. None? Move to 9.2 FY 22 budget amendment discussion.
Okay. You should have in front of you just a 3-page budget summary that was at your seat. The biggest areas where you're gonna see changes in the budget have to do with our bond sales. We completed just over an $18 million bond sale a few months ago, and so we need to account for that revenue. A little over $3 million of that was used to pay off bonds that we already had outstanding. And right now, we've got 3 bond issues. One that we hold ourselves in an amount just north of $6 million, and 2 other bond issues that are owned by a number of local banks, primarily Bank Orient. So what you see there is that once those funds were deposited into the operations maintenance fund and the working cash fund, is that we have substantial dollars available for the building renovations or construction that we talked about. If you look at page 2, in about the middle of page 2, you see what the estimated year-end fund balances are. And in O&M, right now, we're estimating a fund balance of over $14 million. Again, that depends on the timing of some of the construction bills associated with what we have going on right out here. There could be a significant swing depending on what we see in June in terms of what's billed. Also in the working cash fund, you'll see a significant balance there of almost $8 million. And again, those funds were targeted when we advertised our bond sale for the purpose of new construction and remodeling of our existing facilities. The other areas, we've got some minor changes in revenue and expenditures, and we have a change in the ESSER 3 revenue. That was the third of the big federal stimulus grants that we're still waiting on final approval for. We've been going back and forth a lot with the state over how we're going to spend some of the required set-asides in summer 23 and summer 24 about how we deal with learning loss and social emotional issues and trying to plan that far in advance. The state seems to want a lot of details on that at the moment. And so we won't actually receive any of those dollars until we've got final approval on the whole plan about how we spend that.
All right, any discussion?
We'll hold a public hearing at our June board meeting to adopt the final budget at that time. And there may or may not be any slight changes from what you see in front of you tonight. It will be on display in the district office and on the website until that time in its full form.
No further discussion, then 9.3, press policy quarterly updates, first reading. It's in your board packet. Questions on that or any discussion?
Is the policy committee going to meet this month and review that, or?
Yes, and we actually have,
Recommendation.
we didn't include that, but I have on my notes that we need a
Okay.
policy committee meeting, not only for this, but it's our time every 2 years to review Section 8, the Community Relations chapter in our board policy manual.
Okay. 9.4, Mercer County FFA Chapter 2021-2022 final report.
I don't know if Mrs. Day can speak to this because it's not really, I mean, she's one of the ag teachers should say, but in the fall, there are almost 300 high school students in an ed class. Some of those are repeats, I'm sure. And then in the spring, 311, that's 3/4 of our high school or more. Do you know how that has compared to in previous years?
There are just over 200 different students involved out there in some capacity. And that's up 50 kids, I think, from average.
Do you think that's with the new classes we've added, teachers?
Yep. Yeah.
The
Additional capacity out there.
additional instructor is what makes a big difference. Is that
Yep.
we're able to offer more sections available
Yeah.
to more students.
Yep. And those numbers, I mean, just like anytime you add new stuff, those numbers will blow up real big and then they'll level off here in the next couple of years.
I know we've discussed some other potential classes and there's not enough room in the teacher's schedule to even accommodate it because they're so
Yeah.
full, which is great.
And we've already, even for next year, had to look at some of those going on an every other year basis of what we currently offer, just because we don't have the capacity to house them all and fit everybody's schedules in. But ton of opportunities,
Good problem to have.
right?
All right, any other questions or discussion on that? 9.5 Blackhawk Division Governing Board meeting.
Okay, this is the annual planning event at the Cellar in Geneseo. If you are interested in attending, please make sure that you contact Angie to get you registered.
Date.
I was looking to see if
June 2nd.
Okay. 9.6 RTO policy and procedures.
I am going to defer to Mrs. Say on this, and she's going to give you a little overview. This is a new and required policy from ISB.
Yeah, so ISB has a new public law that requires every district to have a restraint, timeout, and isolated timeout policy and procedure. We also have to have a reduction timeline and plan. Looking at our historical data from the past 3 years, we've used none of the three, so we've been 0 every year. So for our timeline, I put our goal to continue at 0. So this would be the involuntary restraining of a student or the involuntary placement in an isolated spot. We don't use them, we haven't used them for a while. But so I put a whole policy and procedures together and I shared that. What we will do is we will train 4 members from each building to be part of a crisis prevention team. That's going to take place August 1st with a BOSED representative. They'll do some training online and then they'll do some training in person. And those people will be trained every year. But in addition to that, they'll also be trained in like trauma-informed practices, prevention measures, and things like that. Like I said, we don't use it, so I think the focus that we have as a district is more on that social emotional learning, and focusing on the de-escalation in the classroom as opposed to having to use this.
This is related to that, but it's also, there's been some articles in the news about some of the Quad City schools, and, I was looking at the admin reports, and, we have had some disciplinary issues. How are we doing overall that's kind of a broad question, but, because I've had people say to me that they've seen on the news, in the newspaper, there's an article, I think, with Bettendorf and some other things that are online about student acting out, basically. And I read an article related to it with coming out of COVID, they're not coping well, and I know we've talked about mental health and stuff, but several people mentioned it to me. I don't know if you want to.
Well, I think maybe we can let each of the principals talk to that, but I can say as a whole, we have seen increased acting out, I think, in all 5 of our buildings right now. What Taylor's talking about are some required rules in place that specifically were aimed at special education students, but apply to the population in general about restraints. We've typically in the past, we've trained staff, mostly special education staff, in CPI, which is a form of restraint management that's focused on de-escalation techniques. But there remain instances in the cases of some students where restraint may be a physical restraint may be necessary, and that's what this was kind of aimed at. That there were some places that may have been abusing that and restraining kids that didn't really need to be restrained, or placing them in isolated timeout rooms, which are essentially closets, and locking them in there.
Yeah, and I guess I can't speak for the disciplinary measures in all of the buildings, but I also included some DESA data. And so I could tell you that almost every building, our students have grown in the social emotional areas that we're addressing. And so I do think Second Step is having an impact on the overall general student body, because I think the data shows that. But I would second Mr. Petrie that we're seeing across the board that there's an increase in probably mental health concern for quite a few students, so.
Thank you. I know that was a little bit off subject.
It's kind of all related, so, you know, the goal obviously is to not get to that point. And so what we're trying to do is implement as many things as we can to prevent those things, but some things are just out of control.
And was this something we'll look at this and we'll vote on next month?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's required to be in place by July 1.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? Item 9.7, school meal improvements.
Okay, this was a board member requested item.
Yeah, I guess I talked to Mike about it. We've heard throughout this process that our lunches and stuff are not up to par, be it whether they travel all the way to New Boston or they travel across the little parking lot here to Apollo or down to the high school. So I was thinking that maybe we should have a committee, and I'd be willing to be on it, where we get, cook representation and try to come up with a way to brainstorm. Mike had brought up that they offer some training and stuff on how to cook and prepare meals for schools that do a centralized kitchen. And so I guess that was kind of my thought, is kick that around, and if we want to do a committee and add that to our list of committees, I'd be willing to be on it. But I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
I remember last time we talked about this last year, the year before, didn't they tell us like whatever the requirements are for nutrition, that kind of limited what we could?
Right, but
So we were listening to the concerns of everybody that were bringing in, and meal was a concern, whatever building you were going at. And, and I talked to Mr. Petrie a little bit, and we were looking, and a lot of our meals are, what are they, like pre meals?
They're pre-cooked.
Pre-cooked, that's what I was looking for. And so, not that some of those aren't bad, but a lot of them aren't great either. They do meet the requirements. So I just started looking and researching, and there are a lot of companies out there that are, and a lot of school districts that are starting to go back to the homemade from scratch meals. And the one in particular that really caught my eye was out of the Colorado School District, or the Boulder, I think it's Boulder School District. And they went through this whole process for over several years, and they centralized their kitchen, but they're doing from scratch. And so they have a whole program to where they tell you, they said, first off, everything that they ran into for struggles of doing this, they have a training on. So like, how do you get funded, or how do you meet governmental guidelines? So they tell you how to do that. How do you get funding? Because sometimes the funding is difficult. And then an issue and I remember watching the video, and they said the thing they didn't think they'd have problems was getting ingredients. They had trouble getting ingredients. So they have this whole process that they do training on. And then they teach your cooks and whoever, they do some training, they do an assessment of your situation, they make a recommendation, and then they will train you and actually take however many, obviously it costs, but however many you want to send out there to their kitchens, they train you, but then they'll come here for part-time to clean it. And I'm not saying that's the one to go for, but as Bill and I were talking, and Mr. Petrie and I were talking, I think we need a committee. I'm not the one to, I'll eat ramen noodles if I have to, but I think maybe a committee is a way to go to kind of look into this, because it's pretty vast. There's a lot of, I looked at Illinois State University has a training program that they did for their whole campus. I know that's a college campus, but so I don't know. I'm thinking it'd be good to maybe get a committee with maybe some cooks. I don't even know if you pull somebody like that cook all the time that can give us some ideas or input. So
It's not that hard.
So
yeah,
for you,
I like too what I heard. You guys have already identified some of the warmers are not as current state. Some are very old warmers, coincidentally, the ones that have been going to New Boston are quite out of date compared to the other ones. So I mean, this was all identified just from conversations. So I think, I mean, the ability to fix some of these should be relatively easy to fix. If you're talking about a warmer that's 10 years old compared to a new warmer, I'm sure there's quite a difference. I'm just, the things that I've heard out of you, I think it's great that it's coming forward, and to make sure that we do stay on the path. We're being driven to have a centralized kitchen. And that's the direction that they're pushing us. So that's not us, that's what they're saying.
I want to say too, a few years ago, on the Roseville was brought up as they have a really good program down there for food. I know it's tough to meet the requirements, but you know, I guess the wellness committee has people from all areas that are on it, so I was kind of envisioning I don't know what you'd call this committee, but to have
Almost a subcommittee of the wellness.
right, yeah, I guess
I mean,
it could
because
be.
that meals are a component of that.
Which the wellness committee only meets twice a year, right? So, I mean, it wouldn't be bad to have another 4.
Who's on the wellness? I'm on
You,
wellness.
me, and Mike.
So we really need to create another committee?
We don't have to, we can
Wellness?
just,
We could just blame you guys for this terrible food.
from our standpoint, we can be us, but I don't know if we have a cooker. Anyone on that wellness?
Pretty sure.
Two head cooks are on there.
Okay, that's perfect. Are you?
One warmer's 10 years older than the other.
Perfect. So
Maybe
sure.
can we pull some people from outside the,
I certainly think we could,
Yeah,
and even if
I'm
they
just
aren't,
looking
even
at
if they
someone
aren't
who cooks
members
great
of the
food right
committee,
now,
then we could invite some
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have several PE teachers on there, our nurses are on
Where's
there.
Beth Wildermuth?
She was awesome.
Right.
I think that's something, when you deal with food, I think that's something you really do have to listen to the kids, because if they're not gonna eat it, you're just gonna waste it. I know you have to meet nutritional guidelines with institutions, but wasting their food is kinda not good. Cause I pick up my granddaughter and she is very hungry.
I agree.
Right, so that's something you
chicken
can,
nuggets and pizza every other day.
I could have lived on pizza as a kid, it would have been fine.
That old pizza, yeah. That was awesome.
I loved it.
Probably doesn't meet the
So
requirements.
that's something that we can just, kinda go off a subgroup of the pop-up.
Yep. And I mean, I think that could be the focus of the wellness committee.
Stew.
Sure. We would need as well.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, administrative reports. Was there any additions or comments from,
You know, the last couple of years since the pandemic, it's been very hard. Kids are behind worldwide, not just here. This year has been a bit of a grind, but when I've been in the classrooms, I feel like I've seen a lot of great teaching and learning going on. And I had a chance to look at the MAP scores yesterday, and that bore it out. And so the way the data presents itself is that 50% would be about average, obviously. But 69% of our kids at Apollo had average or above growth. And they also quantify all of it together, and they give you a percent of how much typical year you would learn. And we grew 128%.
Nice.
And that's a year and a quarter. And that's not gonna get us where we need to be or where we would be if we didn't have this, but it's a step in the right direction. And I got on the intercom this morning, and I congratulated all the kids and the teachers, and I told them I was gonna brag about it tonight, so here I am. The teachers have been working hard, the kids have been working hard, and there's some test results that are bearing that out. It's making me feel a lot better. I don't feel like I'm swimming upstream.
Good job.
any other administrators have any additions or comments?
Boston kids went to St. Louis last Friday. It was from a donation from an anonymous person. Really appreciate that. We had it set up for about 2 years now, so we hit the St. Louis Zoo and hit the City Museum. Kids loved it. I mean, they were there at 5:45 in the morning, and I've never seen so many kids bright-eyed and bushy-tailed ready to go at that time of day. They were there on time. Parents did a fantastic job. We're lucky enough that that class is small enough that we could take a chaperone for each child. So all but 2 kids had a chaperone for the day, so that was awesome. We got to the zoo. They were able to go see whatever they wanted to see and get back. Kudos to the bus driver if you've ever been to the St. Louis Zoo trying to drive a charter bus. Yeah, he got a tip and he earned that tip that day. The City Museum was fantastic. If you haven't been there, you need to go check it out. It was awesome. The kids did a fantastic job. A lot of compliments for our kids as far as being respectful and doing the right thing where they're supposed to be when nobody's looking kind of deal. So we're excited for them. We're gonna take a year off and then hopefully get back on track when our 3rd grade now becomes 5th grade and look at some different areas. It's really about providing opportunities for our students to see stuff outside Mercer County. When we polled our 4th grade group of how many have been to St. Louis, 1 had. And I was surprised to have parents on the trip that they'd never been to St. Louis either. So them coming down, going across the bridge and seeing the arch and seeing the minor league team of the St. Louis Cardinals. Really
Please no derogatory comments.
Really cool. Hope I didn't hurt any feelings there, but seeing that skyline was fantastic because many of them have it. I mean, the biggest thing that they see are grain elevators around here. And it gives them a different perspective of the world around them outside of Mercer County, and that's what we need to do is continue to provide those opportunities for kids to see what else is out there besides what's just right outside their door. So we're very excited for them. Other than that, we're good. We have a staff meeting Friday morning at 8:30 if anybody wants to join us at New Boston. You're more than welcome to.
I had 2 things for the junior high that happened since the report was submitted. Our student senate partnered with Family Crisis Center to do a fundraiser. They did a change war. The kids got into that big time, making big pocket change coming in. They raised $500 that they were able to donate towards that program, which was really cool. They came in, I don't remember the date when they came in, it was earlier this week, to present that check and stuff to them. So that was pretty cool, Family Crisis Center. And the other item, Saturday, kids did a great job of sectional. We have like 14 kids going down to the state track meet to represent us. I think they're going to do a great job down there based on times and things that we've been scouring other teams to see where they already stack up. So they should
That's an
represent
athletic
well down there.
bunch. You got an athletic bunch in that group.
We sent our girls track state qualifiers out this morning. Eden Mueller is going to run the 3200 and the 1600. She'll run the 1600 in the prelims tomorrow, and then if she qualifies, she'll run again Saturday. The 3200 will just be Saturday. She's currently ranked 8th in one and 10th in the other, but I can't remember which one's which. And so she's got a pretty good chance to medal in both, really. And I think the weather's going to be pretty good for her to run. Boys have sectionals on Friday, and then we'll see how they're at, where they're headed the following weekend. So. Softball gave Rockridge a run for their money last night.
Yeah.
Board, any comments from the board, from the administrator? The only thing I just want to kind of make a middle note for us is when I was looking through the administrative reports, we're adding an addition here, and I don't think in our building and grounds, I don't remember ever talking about, you got some windows that are leaking and some HVAC stuff. I know we brought it up, but just something we don't want to forget about as we're looking at whole buildings or sections, some of that stuff. I just don't want us to forget it. Okay.
I had 3 different people comment that they were happy that we have air conditioning for the graduation. I mean, so I know it's 2022.
I've been sweating out last week pretty hard.
So
Have
that
we not
was
had that?
3 comments that was good.
The high
Great
school
job.
teachers told me this afternoon, because we have a monthly meeting with all, I meet with a number of representatives from the buildings at a teacher meeting, and Kayla Westfall, one of the social studies teachers from the high school, said, it's not all dialed in yet, but we sure appreciate what it's doing. And
they didn't so much today
we're
when it's
gonna get
blowing
there.
out at 55.
Well,
Right.
today was a Windows open day.
You can't do that with children.
Oh.
It really throws it off.
Oh.
It was nice, nice.
Yeah.
place.
Meeting where I
And they
kind
said
of
the place
know
was
all
packed.
Yeah,
They
it's
said
a
the
good crowd.
foundation- Yeah.
Yeah, I like the
Those
fact
teachers,
that I
they
didn't
don't-
hear any comments about the heat,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Nothing else? Let's take let's just take a break till about
We need
7.
a motion to move to go into closed session.
Yes. I second. Roll.
Roll call. Yates,
Yes.
Palmer. Barry.
Yes.
Bounds,
Yes.
Munson,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Okay, let's start back at 7:35.